The reason, the rhyme. 5 things that mean something to me. And the reason why. Oi, shut up. Excuse me. Yeah, and the reason why. This time, my musical origins, where it all came from. This one should have some interesting stuff in it. Am I right? You're not wrong. See, even he agrees. Right, so first, I was really lucky. I've got an uncle who's older than me, who was quite happy to allow me to sit with him and listen to music. Now, I was 4 in 1977. So he was older and he was listening to the Sex Pistols, the Clash, the Ruts, the Vibrators, the Slits, Buzzcocks, and then things like Madness, the Selector, Bad Manners, the Specials, loads of punk, ska, new wave, and he allowed me to just sit there and listen to tunes all day with him. So I was brought up on a very good bedrock of good music, I'll put it that way. And one of my first memories was of the first song, which is Cool for Cats by Squeeze. And it's not necessarily because of the music, or even though the music is fantastic, it's because when he first took the record out of its sleeve, it was pink, bright pink, gaily pink. I always thought records were black at that point, but they weren't. This was pink. And he put it on the turntable, and I just stood there and watched it spinning round and spinning round. And every time he played it, I did the same thing. I was obsessed with that record. And to be honest with you, it's also a good song. I put Squeeze in the same kind of bracket as Madness and the Kinks, in their ability to be able to tell a story within 3 minutes. This nice little slice of British life. So I love stuff like that. Anyone that can tell a story in a record, I think, is superb. And also, Chris Difford. It didn't sound like he was singing, it sounded like he was telling you a story directly, as though he was talking. Sort of always like that, and that's part of the Squeeze sound. You've got Glenn Tilbrook, who's got that classically sweet, beautiful voice, singing on top of Chris Difford, who's anchoring the sound. Very, very Squeeze. So I like that. So that's one of the first records that ever stuck out to me, was Cool for Cats by Squeeze. Brilliant tune. If you never find it on 7-inch pink vinyl, do so. Although, please don't Google 7-inch pink vinyl, because you never know what will come up. Anyway, yeah, number 1, Squeeze, Cool for Cats. Up next is Ghost Town by The Specials. This, to this day, I think is one of the most perfectly produced songs, because it sounds really compressed and claustrophobic, which at the time was pretty much how the country was feeling. The youth felt abandoned. I mean, I was only young at the time. I think 1981 this came out. I was 8. But we had things like the riots, the Toxteth riots that happened in Liverpool, where I'm from. There'd been riots as well in Birmingham, in London, Bristol as well, I think, wasn't it? The youth were not happy. There was trouble everywhere. There was trouble on the streets. There was huge unemployment, and it did feel like the UK was becoming more and more insular, inward looking from the perspective of young people at that time. There was no horizons, there was no chance to explore, there was no chance to improve yourself. It all just felt a little bit hemmed in, and the production on that song perfectly encapsulates that. I think the video as well, if you watch it, all the band are inside a car driving at night with the lights on inside. That's a bit what it felt like. A bit trapped, no way out. So I absolutely love it. It's got such a fantastic song, a weird chord structure, and some strange instruments on it for the time, but brilliantly written. The vocals, anything with Terry Hall in, for me, is fantastic. What an absolutely superb singer, and very, very sadly missed. And also the fact that they were a mixed race band from Coventry, showing that there didn't have to be mistrust amongst the communities. You could get on. There was a lot of National Front stuff going on at the time as well. I remember there was race riots, there was football fans especially were being targeted by the National Front. I only seen this a bit later on in sort of 84, 85 onwards, leafleting outside football stadiums from the National Front, which, looking back at it now, is absolutely bizarre, but all that was going on. And you had a band with 3 frontmen, 1 white, 2 black, singing about what they saw, violence at their gigs, how cities had been run down and left to rack and ruin without any investment whatsoever from the government. It's a very, very important piece of social history, something we should be able to look back on and be embarrassed about, but also a song that we should look back on and be very, very proud of, that a band from our country managed to encapsulate an entire era in that one little slice of brilliant music. So it's a hugely important song, it really is. And it's one that stuck in my mind, just because I think when I first heard it as a young kid, it was the sound. I mean, at 8, what was I listening to? There was Beatles on in the house, there was Simon and Garfunkel, there was loads of stuff which is a bit more open and expansive. Hearing that just tweaked the thing in my ear, I think. Listen for the more strange, and I've done that ever since. But yeah, The Specials, Ghost Town, what a really important song that was in my development as a youth, and also being socially aware. Up next, it's the Sex Pistols' Pretty Vacant. Now, I was 4 when this came out, and I would say punk is a brilliant format for kids. And if you don't believe me, give a kid an upturned saucepan and a wooden spoon and they will smash it for hour after hour, making a racket. To the point where you, as a parent, are tearing your hair out. Hours later you look down, your smiling cherubic child is still smashing that saucepan and making noise. And hearing the Sex Pistols for the first time, there was that immediacy. There was the noise, there was the idea that in a short space of time they had a message and they wanted to tell you what this message was and you were going to listen. For me, I think that works for kids. And it made an impression. It was like, noise, this is noise, there's a reason for this. I'd like to know what this reason is. Yeah, Pretty Vacant is also, when you look at it years later, it's also a proper decent tune. I mean, it's not just thrashy noise, it's a decent song. And if you have a look around you now, most people are pretty vacant, to be fair. Like, yeah, Sex Pistols, Pretty Vacant. Up next is London Calling by The Clash. An absolute classic. I think you'll all agree, an absolute classic. The thing that struck me about this was it was around about the same time as punk and new wave and ska and all that. And it didn't sound as openly aggressive as punk, but there did seem to be an undercurrent of, I don't know, it sounded like Joe Strummer was singing through a little bit of gritted teeth, and I like that. I like a bit of narkiness, just pulled back slightly, whereas it feels like it's about to explode at some point, but you never knew when. Sex Pistols exploded from the very first chord, but with The Clash it always felt like it was just under the currents, under the surface there. So I love it, and also the album has got a superb cover, which everyone knows. So looking at that, listening to the song, listening to the album, but listening to the song, I absolutely love that. What a boss tune. Anyway, home is calling, never mind London because it's cold, and I've got alcohol-free wine to drink. Proper rock and roll era. Up next is the Buzzcocks, Everybody's Happy Nowadays, and I loved it. I didn't realise at the time it was quite an ironic song, but it wasn't done ironically. The lyrics might have been a little bit anti-happiness, but the song was happy, it was upbeat, it was energetic. Pete Shelley's voice sounds great on it. Love the Buzzcocks. Again, they were powerful without being as angry as, or as openly angry as the Sex Pistols, but there's still enough in there to make you realise These are people with a message. They're not happy with society. They want change. They want something to happen. But I just love the fact that it was a quick, quirky, upbeat tune, and a brilliant song. Buzzcocks are another band. They get mentioned, obviously, in the same sort of breath as the likes of the Smiths and the Stone Roses as being an influential Manchester band. But I don't think it's the credit they deserve. They wrote some fantastic songs. They really did. And all anyone ever talks about is ever falling in love with someone. And they're more than that. They are much more than that. If you're not listening to any of them, go and listen to some of the album tracks. Some really good stuff there. But also maybe one or two songs that you've heard before but didn't realise that was by them. Although with Pete Shelley's voice, that would be surprising, to be quite honest with you. But I love it. It's one of those songs that's on a playlist. Every few years I'll put a playlist together of songs I'm listening to at the moment, and that's on there regularly because I'll keep going back to it, and I'll keep on playing it on Spotify over and over again. Check it out. Listen to the greatest hits. There you go. Start off that way and then work your way into the albums bit by bit. Everybody's happy nowadays by the Buzzcocks. So there you go. There's my 5 things that mean something to me and the reasons why. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like that 5, why not check out these next? Or even these?